bullying, and we've been doing that for the past 6 years. We do have a teacher that their duty is primarily to work with the committee from the PACS group, the REACH group, to provide training for students and ongoing programming during 40-minute homerooms. We do that throughout the year. And also, we do we receive notifications when students might be looking on the internet, maybe on their Chromebook, and they find that something's alarming around death or something that's causing concern, and then we obviously make a contact with that student, and that's done through our technology department. Those alerts go to the principals, and we're able to provide interventions. STAND is another group besides the Principal's Advisory Council for Students that is about respect and working together with students and providing the supports that are in place. They meet regularly and talk about students working with each other in a respectful way. Just recently, we have had several meetings with students that wanted to meet with one of our community members, Diane Ford, who is a Bethel Park graduate, and she has been a consultant for us and providing support for our students. We had all the students got to meet Diane. She presented, I think, a very non-threatening kind of presentation that provided support for students about creating a real positive school culture. And with that said, Diane, we put out a Google form, and students got to sign up. So they've been meeting with Diane several times during lunchtime. They'll grab a bite. They'll take their lunch with them to the adjacent room to the cafeteria, and they're able to meet with Diane. We've also put the counselor and the social worker in that meeting to provide support to Diane as she meets with students. So we've got a lot of things going on. I'm trying to be sensitive of time, and I'm sorry if I'm rushing a bit. But we're making great progress with addressing the bullying and the anti-bullying piece at the high school. Thank you.
Hey, just one question, Dr. J. What are the metrics, or what are the things we measure around this? Okay, and do we track that, and what are the trends?
We do. We have every incident that occurs. We put that into our SunGuard, our system, and we're able to track. We can give a report about how many times it's occurring, and then also as we meet with students, we have repeat offenders. Obviously, that heightens our level of response to folks that are doing it more than once. So we do have a regular system in place to be able to track, and we can pull that data out at just about any time if we need to take a look at it.
So is there a trend, and I guess how does that compare to other? The trend
that I've seen over the years is that it occurs monthly. It occurs every year. I believe the situation's gone down a bit, but also when we provide avenues for students to report. There was an initial increase, a jump. When Safe to Say was implemented, we saw kids reporting, we had kids reporting vapes in the bathroom, things like that. Not necessarily bullying issues, but more, hey, I'm concerned about this. So there was a spike. It's now leveled off a bit. And I think, as we continue, communication is really the most important piece in this whole approach, and that is talking to the faculty and staff regularly, talking with students regularly, telling them what the expectations are, and then having a response that's provides support for them has really been ongoing. We're seeing an increase, I can tell you, in mental health situations with our students, anxieties, all those things that are starting to really go up, and from there it's causing issues. So as our bullying from student to student goes up, goes down, we're seeing a rise in mental health issues. So it's kind of working together, but I would say not working well together, if you will. Okay, any other questions? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to run off. I just wanted to do my presentation. Any other questions from the high school level? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. J is a little taller than me. Sorry.
David Minch, the principal at Independence Middle School. I'm here to talk about, of course, our bullying prevention programs. Probably the singly most effective thing that we've done. About 4 years ago, we developed a format for the students to use their Chromebooks to report to us things that happened during the day. So this was before Safe to Say. It was not anonymous, but it was definitely very effective in getting us real-time information. I mean, it would happen, we would get the report, we would be able to deal with it that day. It's been really probably the singly most effective thing that we've had since I've been there, because we've been able to get in there very quickly to get things done. The other things that we've done, we have an IndyAx mentoring program where we take our student body, they meet during homeroom time. They present or put together student-led presentations or student-led activities, really, is probably a better term for it, because it's interactive with the students in classrooms and homeroom to go over some of these character ed and bullying prevention types of programs. We did adopt about 5 or 6 lessons from Common Sense Media that are embedded in our curriculum, whether it be health or reading or social studies, that dealt specifically with bullying. And we also have the mentoring and social groups. One particular one that I'm very proud of that I want to talk about here real quick is the SOAR program. Kara Horitz, Bill Javor, Scott Stranko, Lynn Serena, and some great paras that support that program. They are the leads in that program. They designed it. This is a program that is not just for special needs students, for any student that will require some sort of social instruction. And we have our students that are mentors that are scheduled into the class, so they're all scheduled together. In the morning, our mentors meet with our teachers. They talk about what that activity is going to be for the day or the week, and then they go into that classroom setting later on that day, and they develop or implement that program with them. And it's been great. And you know, kids that are needing mentoring, you know, we often even sell it to them that they're the mentor, actually, and it gives them a lot of great ownership and great positive interaction through the day. Our counselors do lunch groups. One other thing I'm proud of, Darrell Wyndham, she runs a social homeroom in the morning. It's a safety base for kids. She runs it so that kids know that that's a place that they're going to be able to play a card game, Connect Four, something to start out the day positive. It's supposed to be a very safe homeroom. All our homerooms are safe, of course, but this is supposed to be for students that are very hesitant in the morning to get school started off on the right foot. So their student assistance program, I think, is very effective with our team talk meetings. We go out every 2 weeks to our teams. We talk to them about anything that's going on with their kids, anything. But bullying is definitely a topic that comes out in each meeting, to the point that, you know, we talk about, it's not always bullying, but it could be harassment, to be honest. Sometimes it's more harassment, because I would agree with Dr. J that overall, bullying-wise, by the definition of bullying, I see a decrease in that overall. I don't see a decrease necessarily in harassment activity, which is, you know, generally like one-time things where we're just going up and we're not using good judgment. That happens at my level quite frequently. So, but bullying behavior, where we're really targeting kids systemically over a longer period of time, you know, I don't see that as much, and it has dropped, I believe. And we also put that in our SunGuard system as well. So that's it for Independence. Can I answer any questions for you about that? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Kenny Patterson, principal at NAMS. So this is close to my heart because I have a 5th grader and a 7th grader, so I deal with it at home too when I leave. So I do put a lot of thought into this. When I came to NAMS, there was already a program in place called HERO. Some of the other schools use that, and they'll talk about it too, helping everyone, respecting others. The way we run that basically is that at the beginning of the year, the first week, we hammer out a lot of lessons, a lot of different things for the students. Playground behavior, cafeteria behavior, and those are all done in homerooms, extended homeroom periods. So the kids are all hearing the same thing. Their presentations created by the teachers. Actually, 2 of my teachers worked on updating all those last year. So 3 of my teachers updated those last year. So we've been kind of able to adapt to the changing, especially with cyberbullying being a bigger issue, honestly, than anything else that we're dealing with. So some of the other ones we have: friends and acquaintances, reporting versus tattling, cyberbullying, kindness in general. So those are topics that we knock out at the beginning of the year, and then throughout the year we have 5 or 6 extended homeroom periods where we do additional topics. We also do talks with all the students at the beginning of the year. The counselors, my assistant and I go in with teams. I like to break it down into smaller groups. I think they sometimes hear better when they're not in groups of 100, 200, 600 for that matter. So we break it down into teams. We literally go into their homerooms a lot of times and we go through our expectations. I focus a lot on bullying because defining bullying for my kids is important, because like Mr. Mensch was talking about, I think that the one time that kid called me a name on the playground is what I get more of than anything. But some kids, I got bullied. So we really try to help define that terminology for the kids and what it means to them. So we spend a good time with that. We have a number of other things in place. As far as reporting, we do have the Safe to Say system. I mean, students report things obviously, and that's why we go through the reporting versus tattling. And we do spend time on that, on things that need to be reported. So the kids all hear these same lessons. They're video-based stuff that's up on the screen, so it's interactive. The kids fill out different programs. Teachers get involved with this, with teacher-led initiatives. You saw the Be the Kind Kid earlier, Team Apollo. That's something they kind of took on themselves, and they really are asking. They've come to me and asked if we can expand that into the whole building next year, which I'm fully on board with. So we're going to look for some donations and try to get some T-shirts and things like that going. Safe to Say, something I talked about. I had the Girl Scouts come in this year, and they placed stickers on every student's locker, a pay it forward type program. So there was a kind note and said do something. So a lot of those students then took that and paid it forward. So we try to get outside organizations and other people involved with that too. One of the nice things I have is I don't have tech in school for the most part. I mean, they have their Chromebooks, but they don't have their own technology. So really the bus is the only time I get into that issue, and that's a touchy one here and there. It does happen occasionally. What I've tried to do, honestly, is I'm also trying to help educate parents, because it's tough. Like I said, I'm a dad myself, and so we've spent time with that at 5th grade orientation. The 4th grade parents that come up, I really talk to them a lot about what to look for and those types of things. And then the PTO kindly pays for Ryan Klingensmith to come in all 4 years that I've been here. He's come in and spoke. Turnout is not always great. This year it was only around 35 people. But if I can help 35 parents understand this and deal with it, then we help 35 parents. And that's the biggest thing. I'll be honest, the counselors, I mean, I have counselors, they do groups, they do friendship groups, they do all these different types of groups at lunchtimes. We have social worker, we do the kid talk, where Mr. Mensch does the team talk. We have kid talk meetings monthly where we talk about the same thing. We meet with every team and talk about student needs and everything. We will have SAP next year. I just went to training with Sarah Shue, and we're working on getting the SAP program up and running at Neil Armstrong also. But more than anything, we get a lot of reports from cyberbullying outside of school, to be honest with you. A vast majority of what I get is stuff on Fortnite, it's stuff on Instagram, it's stuff, and I hear the giggling behind me because, and it's hard because, I tell parents, I'm real honest with parents, like I'll talk to kids, I'll do everything I can to help educate them, but people want punishments and things like that sometimes, and I don't have jurisdiction over Fortnite outside of school. Now, when it comes in, by all means, but that's one of the things I work really hard to educate people about, because they have the ultimate power, and I tell parents this all the time, because all you have to do is take it. I don't have that power. I mean, at school, yeah, I'm going to take it off of them, but I have to give it back to them. You don't. So I really do work hard on working with parents and helping, because like I said, I'm doing it myself at home, so I know what it's like. I mean, most of us back there have kids, and we're doing the same thing together, so it is a real challenge right now. But I mean, one of the big things I really like is we have it in our classrooms too. Mr. Espinar and Mr. Erickson, my 6th grade health teachers, do an awesome project with the kids in health class in 6th grade. Every kid goes through that class, and we have posters hanging all over the building with that. Mrs. Christensen in the 5th grade TCAP class also does some bullying stuff, and the kids work on some different projects in there. So it's really embedded. Mike Welsh, our new resource officer, he's still getting kind of acclimated and everything, but one of the things I'm going to have him doing is going into classes too and talking to the kids, and he gets involved and helps out with a lot of those situations now too. So that's kind of NAMS in a glimpse. If you have any questions or anything, by all means. Thank you.
That's good. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jay Johnson, principal at Lincoln.
I think the difference when it comes to the elementary, or not the difference, but something that we really focus on at the elementary level is trying to create a positive and collaborative and inclusive culture for the students in our buildings. And a lot of that stems from building very positive relationships with the staff that we do have. I'm very fortunate to have the staff I do at Lincoln that take that very seriously and do an excellent job. Is that a clap? Yeah. Oh, there you go. That take it very seriously and do an excellent job with it for me. And honestly, I'm very proud of our students too, because when you see some of the programs that we incorporate into our school culture every day, when you see elementary students responding the way that I see elementary students responding now, it's not necessarily the same elementary experience I had quite a long time ago now. I think that we need to give kids a little bit more credit for what they're aware of and how to be the kind kid, like Mr. Patterson referenced a little bit earlier. One of the things we did this year is that, well, we always have a positive school culture committee. This year our theme that we selected was Be the Nice Kid, which is similar to that they're using at Neil Armstrong. 4 teachers on that committee for me, Mrs. Liberto, Mrs. Corello, Mrs. Lucarelli, and Mrs. Dowds. They designed monthly themes on positive character traits for the monthly classroom meetings that all of our teachers have. So we try to emphasize, like I said, those positive classroom traits for the kids to practice while they're in school with us. Also, during those classroom meetings, students have the opportunity to share any concerns that they may have with the teachers and work those concerns out within that setting as well. They also organize for me school-wide assemblies. 2 of those we've had this year that focus on those same positive character traits. We also have some really good art students from the high school that have volunteered their time, along with the art teacher at Neil Armstrong, who I have to thank, Maddie Tiska, who comes down to Lincoln after school, and they're designing a nice mural for us in our lobby this year that reinforces that theme as well that we did adopt this year. So I'm very thankful to all those folks. Mindset Makers is a new program that we implemented this year thanks to Mrs. Pazakanix, who I think is sitting back there as my school librarian, as well as Mrs. Lissack. In that program, we take 4 half school days per year and put a halt to our regular instruction, and we focus on the collaboration and partnerships between students in different grade levels working together, as well as with different teachers that they're not used to having every day. So in other words, we mix up students K to 4, put them in different groups, and then put them with different teachers that they may not necessarily have. And then within that setting, they work on STEAM-based problem-solving activity that also has a literacy component. We've done 3 of those 4 so far this year. It's been very successful, and I hope it's something that we are able to continue to do as well. We've had the community garden and shim partnership going on for, I think this is going to be this is the end of year 3, I believe, that we've had that program in place. But that really helps, I think, our students in understanding diversity awareness and the value in working together towards a common goal and collaborative production. Again, there we get a lot of students from different backgrounds and different grade levels working together on a common goal and a common project to be successful. And that's a program that we hope to see continue to go on for a long time as well, because it builds those positive character traits that help to prevent instances of bullying in the first place. Lincoln Learners Mentoring Program, I am very, very proud of that. That's, again, Mrs. Pazakanix, Mrs. Dowds helped us get that off the ground a few years ago at Lincoln. And what that program does is also mix an upper-level student, a grade 3 or 4 student, with a younger student, a grade 1 or 2 student, in an after-school program that we developed with the assistance of WQED in a partnership that we formed with them a few years ago. The nice thing about that program is it's mentoring at the elementary level, which is tough to do, but the kids respond very well to it because the idea behind it is the 3rd and 4th graders are supposed to be helping the 1st and 2nd graders with homework or other things that they may be having trouble with academically. The cool thing that develops out of that, though, is the positive relationships that those kids build. And those younger kids having an older kid in the school that gives them a smile when they see them walking down the hallway and things like that. So it doesn't keep the school as segmented as by grade level as you know sometimes happens. Social worker programs, just like all the schools, we have a social worker 2.5 days a week. She runs a variety of programs like Lunch Bunch and friendship groups for students that have trouble making friendships, as well as new student groups to help welcome new students into the building. And then again, there's just so many miscellaneous things that our staff does that are so helpful in this regard. Mrs. Bright, one of my paraprofessionals, just organized a unique Socks Day to help create an inclusive environment for children that have Down syndrome. And all those things I think oftentimes go unnoticed, but all those things create that inclusive environment that help us to prevent bullying in the first place. And then, of course, like some of the other principals mentioned, all the traditional methods are in place relative to the support of the school district policies, including grade level meetings that I hold with the students at the beginning of every year focused on respect for yourself, respect for other people, and respect for your school. The regular student and parent meetings that we have in the case that any of those instances do happen. We utilize the common sense media curriculum in our health and library classes in order to teach students about positive online behaviors, to try to address cyberbullying, as well as to teach them what might be dangerous out there and what they should try to avoid. And Officer Remark was an addition this year as well to Lincoln that has also been very helpful. He's another person that's in the building that the students see as a good guy and somebody that they can go to in the case that they may need something. So, any questions for Lincoln? Thank you.
I have one question. This is probably not just for you, but listening to all these great things that all you principals are doing, I'm thinking to myself, are you sharing this with everybody? Is Lincoln sharing this is that what's going on? So because each school has all these neat programs, but I'm wondering, it seems like there's a lot to be shared and a lot of good that can come out of it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we talk all the time,
Yeah, I know you do. I just want to, I don't hear you saying everybody's doing, the SOAR and everybody's doing. I mean, it sounds like each one's got special things. But
I think different. Yeah, you see things get tried out at certain places, and oftentimes one building will try one thing, and if it seems to, actually a really good example of that is the WQED programming. Mrs. Pazakanix, who I think is still back. Oh, there she is. Mrs. Paz brought that to Lincoln along with Kathy Cook from WQED and Mrs. Dowds a few years ago, and we've had that in place for a few years now, and it's one of those things that really brings parents into the school. Sometimes it pairs students, like I mentioned, of younger and older ages. There's all kinds of positive climate things that come out of a program like that. And now this year, and then a few years after we started it, William Penn gave it a try, and now this year all 5 of the buildings are doing it at the elementary level. So I think that's a good example of what you talked about. Sometimes it just takes one place first,
Yeah,
so,
right.
I might hear something tonight that, or Mrs. Paz might, that we go back to Lincoln with and try to do that next year.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Brian Lenowski, Principal at William Penn Elementary. In addition to a lot of the things that you have heard already, we do character education. We're proactive at William Penn when it comes to bullying, and in that character education, there's a thing we call a character trait, and we have that character trait each month. So it could be something like the word dependability or self-control or respect or gratitude. So all month long, we emphasize that one thing. And there are banners in our hallways. We put one banner up, and by the end of the year, you have these row of colorful banners. And we, through that whole month, let's say it's dependability, we will show on the first Friday of the month what is dependability. We show it to the entire school. Then I speak to the entire school afterwards, and the kids wear the same color as the banner, and then our teachers emphasize that trait. And in our morning announcements, which are presented by our students, they talk about that character trait, what it is, and an example, and they write it themselves. It's our 4th graders. So the character education is the foundation, and that's just a proactive approach. Some of the things that we do, we have a recess play group, we have lunch bunch, we have a before school social group, and we also have a lunch social group. Those are organized by the teachers and around our social worker, but those are done through discussions, through Kid Talk, where our teachers come to me and we talk about, well, what students may not be playing right now, which ones seem to be on the outside looking in. Can we include them? What can we do? So we get in there and we kind of manipulate some things. Whether it be at lunch, we say, hey, let's have lunch together with this teacher and let's build friendship. So we try to be proactive that way. In addition, we have our bullying interventions and our different groups. If you click the slide one time, you'll see the character counts. I'm not a very good photographer, but you can see that's the first banner as you walk through the door. Then you have self-control, respect, and as you round the corner in the pen, they will be more and more. In addition, throughout our building, most of our things, we have student work, of course, posted, but most of the messages are positive in a proactive way. You see that one, our display case, William Penn, look who makes a difference. And I know you can't really make that out, but that's me there because that's a mirror. So it's about a child's height. So who makes the difference, and they look at themselves. and there's messages there. So those are some of the things that we do. Any questions for me and William Penn? Thank you.
I like that character trait program. That's really good. I think it's important for people to, intentionally understand the different character elements.
Right, and you talk about, you were talking earlier about neighborhood schools, William Penn being the smallest. I would say about this time of the year, every one of our teachers knows every one of our kids at all grade levels. So we could have these kid talks and be productive there, like, hey, this is what's happening at recess, what can we do differently? This is what's happening at lunch, because that's usually, the teachers are in control of the classroom, but when I think all principals would agree, it's bus rides, it's recess, it's lunch where things do occur, so we try to stay on top of that. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fred Pearson. I'm the principal at Washington Elementary. And, if I could just add, I think you'll see similar things that, especially the elementaries, that we're doing. And just to answer your question, why it's, different, I think, at every building. It's different in the fact that, we all have, we have different kids, so we have different needs. And so we try to build a program, I think, that matches the needs of our students. And so they're all very similar. They all kind of do the same thing, but they're a little different in how we go about presenting them. I've been at this a while now, and we've been through a number of different programs, and our bully prevention program has kind of morphed from, bullying, because, maybe 10 years ago that was kind of the in vogue term. It still is, but from my perspective, we don't see a lot of bullying going on in our elementary schools. We see, some misbehavior. Kids, definitely make mistakes, say mean things to one another. But the definition of bullying, I don't think we see that very often. So we've changed our program. We used to do Oveus, and we've kind of changed it along the way to more of a character education program, trying to teach our students just to be good people, be good citizens, treat each other kindly. And, we try to mix it up a little bit. We've done, over the last few years, we have done the NED program. We brought, we'd have an assembly, and the NED show comes in, and NED stands for Never Give Up, Encourage Others, and Do Your Best. But we've done that for a few years. So this year, we call it our friendship committee, because we just think that's a more positive term for a group of teachers. We get together, 3 times a year or so, and try to build activities so that they could go into the classrooms, and the teachers then can implement them. The theme that we did this year we called Bucket Fillers, and we thought, that was a nice theme, and really to try to teach kids to be good friends with one another, both inside of school and at home. So, being a bucket filler, you could either be a bucket filler or a bucket dipper, and we want to fill our buckets. So, one of the things our teachers do is they try to catch kids being good and being nice to each other, and they'll give them a little sticker to kind of fill up their bucket. And we kicked that off this year, which was it was such a nice program. We kicked it off in conjunction with Veterans Day this year, and we had 12 veterans come in and talk with our students about what a veteran is, what they do, and we just thought they were good role models for our kids to see. These wonderful men. There were 12 of them who came in, and really, I think it had a more positive impact on the veterans than really even the kids. I mean, they were emotional and really were fantastic. And so what they did was we kicked it off. They read the book Your Bucket Filler, and so they read the story Bucket Filler to the kids. It was fantastic. Some of the other things that we do. We have monthly themes, just like the other schools, The teachers will get books from the library on particular themes, that we outline throughout the year, and they'll read them and have discussions in the classroom. Really, that's where it all gets done, is in the classroom. We have bully meetings once a month, where the kids will, the teacher will get the kids together maybe after recess, especially this time of year. This is when it's all, starts to go awry a little bit, when they start to go back outside for recess. And when they're all together, we start to see more incidents of misbehavior. So those meetings that teachers are having with the kids are really imperative, and they really help focus kids and help with their behavior. And then, we have the other, all the other services that all the other schools have talked about. We have, when misbehavior occurs, whether it's bullying or just misbehavior, I'll intervene and have a counseling session with the student or students or group of students, or if it's a bus, I might pull the whole bus in and have a talk with them. So I'll do a lot of work with those students, but our social worker also does a lot. She'll go into classrooms and do a little lesson on how to treat others kindly and those kind of things. In addition to what I'm doing, she also has lunch bunch groups and and works with kids to try to build those friendships and repair them as well. So, yeah, that's pretty much what we do at Washington. Any questions for me? All right, great. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Eric Chalice, principal at Memorial Elementary. Thanks for having me this evening. Just not to beat a dead horse, but it's a little bit similar to what the other elementary schools are doing, specifically William Penn at this point. We start off with, we still do the Oveus. I mean, it's an old program, but we were all trained in it. We all know it well. So, some of the staff members still believe that that's the best way to go. They use the videos, and they read from the book and they do the activities, and that's fine. But something else we also incorporated a few years ago was the character education. That seemed to be like the new thing. Be more positive, and rather than talking about bullying or what is bullying. I think the kids were getting a little confused at the young ages, and everything was bullying. Someone would throw a piece of paper in the garbage, accidentally hit someone, and they were getting bullied. So we thought, let's talk about the good things. Let's turn it around into the character. So, like each month, as they do at William Penn, we do, we talk about respect one month, honest, being helpful, trustworthy, kind, responsible, motivated, and be prepared. Those are the character traits that we use throughout the year. And then we look for teachable moments during our weekly stories, and we talk more about those in detail. We talk about it when we're reading books, at any time when there's misbehavior. The teachers, like Mr. Pierce said, this happens in the classroom a lot, and the teachers take it from there, and they talk to the students about, treat others like you want to be treated, and why did this happen? So they take the time. When it hits a certain level, yes, it comes to me, and then I do the same thing, on a higher scale. And if there truly is bullying going on, that is something that does get documented, and we handle according to our policy that you approved. But that doesn't happen often. The bullying is really low, but it is. Kids make mistakes. They're young. We do see a lot of mental health issues at the elementaries nowadays, and this is where our social workers come in. Hats off to Cindy Wood, our social worker for Memorial and Lincoln. She does a tremendous job. She does not only lunch bunch, but social groups and any kind of activities, play therapy, you name it, she does it. She helps get these kids on track. The teachers are fantastic, but sometimes those kids just need another place to go. So thank you for the social worker. I'll throw that plug in there. Also, just some other things we do. We had Rachel's Challenge this year. What a great program that was, and that came from Ben Franklin. We kind of stole that, or we shared it with them. And that was a terrific program for the students to learn about kindness and be just wonderful to one another and be caring and loving. And then we had also an assembly for the parents, too, that same evening, so they can learn. It was a little higher skill with the parents. We didn't go into any detail, any gory details about the Rachel's Challenge. It was just all positive for the students. And out of that, we did create another character committee that's, we're in the process of meeting and talking and going to develop a new plan for next year, something we want to try something new, something better. We're always looking to improve what we do. We do have an assembly at the beginning of the year. I talked to all the kids about what's expected and, what our character traits are going to be and how things are going to go. We also do this again in the spring for one of the reasons, I think it was Mr. Pearson again. In the spring, the kids just need a reminder. They get outside again, and they just need a nice, friendly reminder of how we act and treat one another. So, and that's pretty much it. I think that kind of covers everything we do at Memorial. Any questions for me?
I like how you're taking it from the positive standpoint. In fact, when my kids were in school, we did the same thing with the character traits. So I think, there's no reinvention of the wheel per se. That's always a good way to approach it with the kids, to take it from the positive standpoint of how
Thank you. I agree. Yes. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Dumont, principal at Ben Franklin. Sorry, I'm short. I have to pull this down. I'm sure that you all will agree that the elementary years are the formative years, not only for academics, but building character, developing the positive attitude, and as you noticed from all the other presentations, kindness is a theme that we are trying to promote within our student body. The program we implemented this year is called Rachel's Challenge. The goals are to promote and foster kind, nurturing classrooms, spread kindness and compassion through actions and words. Through this initiative, we wanted to use it to complement our current HERO program. And with that, what we try to do is catch students being good. They get HERO bucks. Every month we have a HERO lunch, thanks to our PTO for really helping us with that. They bring in community members that come in and have lunch with the students, talk about their careers, talk about what it is to be a hero, what you need to do to be successful in life. And I think that that's a positive aspect of our program. We would also like to hope that our students will learn through the 5 challenges of Rachel's Challenge to use kind words and do kind things. So that's a recurring theme within this program. Accept and include others, choose and be a positive influence, set goals and keep a journal, and continue the chain reaction. The chain reaction is kindness and compassion. That is something that we would like to hope we instill within the students at Ben Franklin, and they can carry that on as they move forward to NAMS, IMS in the high school. We can set the foundation for what Mr. Patterson talked about regarding the kind kid. Our daily activities include, we have in our morning announcements our daily kindness quote. We also have Proud Friday, where students and staff members are highlighted for things they have done throughout the week. Students journal weekly, 2nd through 4th grade. K to 1, they have a discussion about different topics. We also have monthly school-wide lessons, and this is our proactive approach to school safety as well as character building through reflective practices. We try to extend learning outside of the community by appreciating others from a global perspective. We had Japan Society come in and share what a typical school day would be like for the children in Japan. We did that for our 4th graders. Mrs. Miyuchi's class participated in the Empatico program, and they just did a video conference with students in Brazil. So that was very interesting. And I really applaud my teachers for taking that extra step. They take it upon themselves to see how they can build upon the programs or the initiatives that are presented to them. We also hope that we achieve community engagement, boost the faculty and student relationships, give our students the the potential to be leaders and promote a positive school climate. Any questions about Rachel's challenge? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Means, will you take other for me this evening?
Yes, ma'am. There are two items under other. One is student agreements, and the second is cancellation of the meeting on May 21st, which is Election Day, and that will be made up with a combined meeting on May 28th. So I'd like to move items 1 and 2. Does anybody want either one of those held out? And then I move items 1 and 2.
Second.
Items 1 and 2 under other have been moved by Mr. Means and seconded by Mr. Christensen. Any questions or comments on either of these items? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those items carry 8-0. We are now to the point of public comments on anything you wish to address the board on. You have 2 minutes at the microphone. Name and address, please.
Hello, Shayna Willis, 5844 Monongahela Avenue. I'm really glad to hear you all talking about class sizes and the impact it has on students. Mr. Means, you said that you looked at some data this week and that class sizes of 14 are helpful for students that are in poverty. And I'm thinking there's got to be a disconnect, because I think you have the illusion that we're in an affluent district. When your grandson, Ken's daughter, my daughter, we're in a Title I school. And that's the school that has high class sizes. And I'm concerned about the disconnect that we seem to have, where we don't seem to understand the district that we currently have. We seem to be living in this world where the district we used to have is the district we have now, and that's just not the case. I do want you to look at the numbers that are inside the schools and look at what it would do, who's in low poverty. And one of the reasons that our kids are doing so well in that class is because Mrs. Cook is an excellent teacher. I don't think it's a coincidence that people who are involved get great teachers. That's not the case for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ann DeBorderly, Ashland Drive. In case I missed it, I haven't heard any public comments about the high school musical, which was absolutely wonderful. And I wanted to say something last week, but we were so consumed with class size that we just all went home. But anyway, it was absolutely wonderful. I hope we did not experience what we did the previous year with complaints from anybody. And I really think that everybody that had anything to do with that needs another sticker for their bucket. It was wonderful. So, regarding these class size, I know I'm a dinosaur. I have been through many class size projects. I think if we're going to take up so much board time, we should just have a special meeting to present something on class size. I think we should bring back that map where we had a pin for every student and where they went to school and when their siblings went to school. We can discuss just having a primary school. We have done all those things. I would be so happy if somebody would come up with a class size solution that lasts for more than 1 year. That's about all we get is 1 year out of the class size. So maybe have a meeting to do another class size project, but bring that board back with all the pins, because that was about the best.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kim Walsh-Turner, 5828 Glen Hill Drive. I want to applaud you for increasing the substitute teacher salaries, because on Friday my daughter walked home from the high school and said 28 students were out and 14 rooms weren't covered. And then the teachers were not there were not enough substitutes to cover all the classes. And then this morning, I get a phone call from another parent that says, if you're going to address this tonight, please let them know that there were several classes again today that were not covered. And I also know, based on a conversation with another parent, there were classes at IMS on Friday that weren't covered. So hopefully by increasing this, we will find substitute teachers, because in the end, we're only hurting our students, and it's coming up on test time. The other thing I want to address is the long-term plan, building whatever class size. We're all saying that R word again of redistricting. Again, if we have the long-term plan, the redistricting will fall into place. And you don't have to do this year over year over year over year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Sandy Blackmore, 3540 Valley Drive. I'm going to piggyback to what she said, because if I remember correctly, the agenda says you just increased the rate for the super sub, which is the one person that's hired per building, but did that also increase the rate for any substitute teachers? So I guess that's what I'm just getting clarification for.
Do you want to respond?
No, at this point, it's just for the super sub. We're going to see how that goes first, and then if we do have success, it's something we could try to visit in the future if it's necessary.
Okay, do any board comments?
I would just like to thank all the principals. That was fabulous.
Really great.
I feel so good about our schools after you all made that presentation. We just have, I think, a great leadership team, so thank you very much.
I'd also like to commend the principals. It was a fabulous presentation. You guys are all doing a lot of similar things, but you're maintaining that neighborhood school flavor by doing it in your own ways. One of the questions that brought up to me, though, is there's some kind of a district-wide template or standard that you guys are all building your programs off of. Another question that I had was pertaining to the mental health that several of you had brought up. Do you feel you're getting the resources you need in social workers or people to help intervene with the mental health issues? And another thing I would like to say, I had the privilege of attending the Rachel's Challenge program at Ben Franklin, and I think that at the very least should be something that we should consider doing district-wide. It reinforces a lot of things that the schools are already doing. That program is phenomenal. And the last thing I wanted to address is I heard a lot of things about how our students should be acting towards others. Another concern I've always had, especially at the elementary school level, is how much are we doing to teach our children how to cope when so-and-so called me a name at the lunch, or at recess, or things like that? Are we investing as much in teaching the kids coping skills as we are teaching them to be kind and be good people? It's all I had to say, and thank you everybody for coming tonight.
I'm just glad we started the evening off on positive notes, and we ended the evening with reporting on all of our programs that, again, positive notes. I think in any endeavor, we can find ways to do better. We're always striving to do better. But I think overall in this district, I feel very blessed to live in this district, to have the staff, all the way from the aides to the teachers, to the principals, to the administrative staff here, to our wonderful families and our parents and our PTOs. We could not do it without the aid of the PTOs. That's where I got my start. It was BACs and PTOs that we did way back when. And I'm happy to watch the programming that we started back then, Battle of the Books, it's still going on, Bold and Gold, it's still going on, all of these wonderful programs that we have in addition to what we're doing educationally with our students. It just warms my heart. I think we're blessed. I need a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to add just a few things that
Okay,
wasn't
sure.
mentioned, and maybe to restate some things because it was worth mentioning twice or 3 times. And again, to the first of all, since the principals was most recent, congratulations and thanks for all the great work you're doing. It's I learned a lot here just watching some of the new programs you got. And like Mr. Nagel was saying also about the coping part, I see how kids were taught everybody's a winner, and that was not working out when we had some sports events where everybody got a trophy. And what you want to do is you got to learn to, the kids, they have to learn to, that hey, there's winners and losers, and you got to learn how to deal with it. And then move on and try to do better. And so bullying, the same thing. And I was encouraged to see the bullying rates going down is what was being stated here by a few people, so that was good. Also, like you were saying about the play I hadn't mentioned here, I was at the play with my wife. It was an excellent musical, Annie, Get Your Gun. I thought it was unbelievable. I was very impressed. So kudos to all the people that had been part of it. You know, I think we got some, what do you call it, America's Got Talent or whatever that one show that has these singers, 2 of them, they were phenomenal. And also to thank all the donations that we got again for that. I think that was worth mentioning one more time because we appreciate that, you know, from the, what was it, the baseball boosters and the Bethel Park Education Foundation. And I guess I don't want to talk too much, so that's it. I just want to say thank you all for being here too and all your input. So, okay.
Thank you.
Hey, I had just one topic on different than bullying, but last month I had the opportunity or obligation, however you look at it, to be a chaperone on that DECA trip. We saw some of the announcements up there. And, you know, we see in many of these organizations, you know, FBLA and others, we see, you know, a lot of great accomplishments. But I was so impressed with a lot of the presentations, the marketing plans, business plans, and things like that the students put together. And, you know, especially today when there's so much screen time, and I think, you know, kids have a tendency to become more introverted, avoid face-to-face communication, tend to maybe pull away from putting themselves out there and maybe just a vulnerable position from just embarrassment and engaging with people. And you know, this DECA programs, I think FBLA, the forensics program, things like that, really, I think is such a valuable, especially today, such a valuable program to encourage kids to get out there and communicate with people and put together programs and yeah, do things that they maybe feel very uncomfortable doing, but they're going to have to do them thousands of times throughout their career. And it's just really important. So it's a great program.
Gold medals or, you know,
yeah.
They were winning.
Mrs. Cook?
Yes.
I just wanted to tell the principals, you know, I go around to all these schools in the county and also within the state, and I keep hearing about all these wonderful things that they believe they're doing in the areas of dealing with mental health and anxiety and everything that goes with it. But, you know, we are sitting on a lot of great programs, and I don't think we do ourselves justice. We're not out there promoting what all of you are doing so well. And I think we need to do a better job at getting that communication out in the other school districts. Thank you.
Ready? Good. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.